Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I use textures in my digital work. So with the nature of digital work, it is really easy to flatten your image. Traditional art is nice because it will inherently have texture, whether it be from the paper or the brush that you use or the buildup of paint, but digital art will always be flattened, and sometimes that really sucks. I believe that you can always use whatever tools you have to create the look that you want. So today we're going to be working with this image again. I'll be adding textures to this piece to add some depth to it. So this painting I have here is already done and I won't be touching anymore. I suggest that if you want to add textures to your piece, that you also fully finish your painting. That way, adding the textures will be much easier. When it comes to textures, everybody will have different preferences for what they use. I will be using this weird glitchy texture for the shadows of the mountain. I like it because it sort of mimics the weird stratified look of the terrain on Mars. I'll paste it around the image to cover the area that I want. Then I'll combine the layers into one, hide the layer, go to Select, Color Range, and select the shadows before inverting the selection and deleting the extraneous areas. Next, I will make it black and white because I don't want the colors of the original texture to show for this piece. I'll play around with the layer properties. For this, right now, I'll just put it on Multiply. From here, I'll adjust the levels to make sure that textures really pop out, and then drop the opacity to make it look a lot more natural. I'm going to add one more texture to the shadow side of the mountain, going through the same steps. I'll play around with the layer properties of both textures until I get to something that I like. For the shadows of the buildings, I'm going to be using this paint texture. I do the same thing as before. So one thing that I like to do for certain areas of the image is to isolate the texture from the background and then slightly adjust the color for a new hue change. I do this by upping the contrast to the point where the texture overlay is mostly black and white with very little grays. I then select all the white and I delete it. I take the entire underlying painting and I duplicate it above the texture I'm working on before clipping it to the texture layer. Then on the clipped painting layer, I pull up the hue and saturation sliders and slightly adjust the colors and saturation, giving this area of the image a slightly different color. I find that this adds nice color variety to the image. I'll do the same thing to the sky. For the sky, I'll just use this weird melty texture. And now finally, for the light side of the mountain, I'm going to use this subtle construction paper texture. I'm still thinking about contrast, even with the textures. Because the shadow had a weird aggressive glitchy texture, the light side will have a softer, subtler grain texture. And there you have it. Here's the image without texture, and here's the image with texture.